Next one, y equals 2 cosine 1/3 x minus pi over 2 minus 3. So my amplitude is 2. My length of one period is going to be 2 pi divided by 1/3, which is 2 pi times 3, which means my length of my period is going to be 6 pi. So from beginning to end is a length of 6 pi. My phase shift is going to be pi over 2 to the right, or you can just say plus pi over 2, as long as you know which way you're going. My vertical shift, I'm going down 3. So I'm going to start at pi over 2. So if I start at pi over 2 and I add a length of 6 pi, that gives me pi over 2 plus 12 pi over 2 equals 13 pi over 2. That's my end point. And so since I'm going to go down 2, I'm going to go up a little bit higher on my graph. So I'm starting at pi over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 pi over 2. If I find all of these, 1 plus 13 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 plus 13 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 10 pi over 2 would be 5 pi. Then if I do 1 pi over 2 plus 7 pi over 2, that's 8 pi over 2. And if I divide the 8 in half, that gives me 4 pi over 2, which is just 2 pi. And again, I'm going to find, oops, I need a better highlighted color. I'm going to highlight that I went, oh, and since we're at pi over 2, your x-axis is going to be, or your y-axis is going to be somewhere over here. So we're not going to worry about it right now. You can find it if you want. But I'm going to mark pi over 2, and I'm going down 3. So 1, 2, 3. I need to mark down 3. So from here, my cosine pattern, remember, is 1, 0, -1, 0, and 1. But since you're multiplying by 2, your pattern is going to be 2, 0, -2, 0, 2, in relationship to my translated axis. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to go from here, I'm going to go 2, 0, -2, 0, 2. And here is my graph that has been moved. Next equation, -5 cosine 4 times x minus 3 plus 1. Actually, let me, erase that. Let me move this down a little bit because we're going to need some more space. Okay, my amplitude is -5. My length of my period is 2 pi over 4, which turns into pi over 2. My phase shift is pi over 3. I'm going 3 to the right. And my vertical shift is 1. So my beginning point is pi over 3. I'm adding to it a period of pi over 2. And again, you're going to have to add two fractions together, get common denominators. My common denominator is going to be 6. So pi over 3 is going to turn into 2 pi over 6. Pi over 2 is going to turn into 3 pi over 6. And that's going to give me an endpoint of 5 pi over 6. So I'm going to start at pi over 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pi over 6. Now, this is pi over 3, and that's, think of that in your head as 2 pi over 6. So when I want to find an average, 2 pi over 6 plus 5 pi over 6, sorry, divided by 2. I'll see if I can have the space down here. So 2 pi over 6 plus 5 pi over 6 divided by 2 is going to give me 7 pi over 6 divided by 2, which is going to be 7 pi over 12. And then now that you have 12 as a denominator, you're going to have to think in your head 7 pi over 12 plus 5 pi over 6 is 10 pi over 12. That gives me 17 pi over 12. And when I divide that in half, that gives me 17 pi over 24. Then if you do the same thing here, you're going to get 11 pi over 24. And then if that's pi over 3, your x-axis is going to be somewhere over here. So I'm going to mark my two shifts. Again, I'm going to mark my pi over 3, and I'm going up 1. That's a pretty ugly color, but my cosine is -5. Or my amplitude is -5. So if it's cosine, it was 1, 0, -1, 0, 1. Now it's -5, 0, 5, 0, -5 from my translated axes. So I'm going to go down 5 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then go to 0 and then up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back to 0, down to -5. So here's my graph. Upside down, stretched, shrunk, moved, all that good stuff. Now, if I give you a graph and I want you to write the equation, the first thing I want to have you do is find the middle of your graph. So if I'm going as low as 5 and as high as 25, that means my middle is going to be at 15. By finding the middle of your graph, you can figure out whether cosine is going to be easiest or sine is going to be easiest. In order for sine to be easiest, you have to be able to figure out exactly what this is here in order to do sine, which would be this graph right here. So that's going to be kind of hard. Same thing here. So this we can kind of clearly see where your coordinates are, and you can do them several places. I could start here, go up, and come back down. Or if I don't want to deal with a negative, I'm going to basically try my graph. Let me make this thicker. I'm going to use the graph from here to here. That way I have a positive cosine graph. Okay, so I'm going to go from here to here. Okay, so my length right here, oops, let me change my pen width back. This is 5, 6, 7, so this is at 8. This is 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And so my period for that one cycle of my graph is 12. So you need 4 things. You need your amplitude, which is this length right here. So my amplitude, if I'm going from 15 to 25, is 10. And since I'm starting high, low to high, and that's the way the cosine normally one is, it's a positive. My b comes from doing 2 pi divided by your period. Just like on the other graphs, your period was 2 pi over whatever that b is. So we're just kind of going backwards. So if I do 2 pi over 12, that means my b value is going to be pi over 6. And then your C is basically where you're starting. So this is C. That's your phase shift. And then your vertical shift is basically the midline of your graph. That's what you found first. And since we're starting high, going low, and going back to high, this is a cosine graph. So my equation is going to be y equals 10 cosine pi over 6 x minus 8 plus 15. This is just one option. It really depends on where you start your graph. You could have done an upside down cosine over here. The amplitude should still be the same, but it would be a negative. The period won't change, but your phase shift will change. Your horizontal shift will not. Okay, next one. If I find the middle of my graph, let me find another yellow color. The middle of my graph, that would be right here. Then I could probably do either one. I could either start with sine and do it from here, or I could do an upside down cosine. It doesn't make a difference. Since we did a cosine in the last one, I'm going to do a sine on this one. And you can really do it anywhere. I could start here and do sine. I could do a -1 over here. I could start here and go this way. As long as whatever you give me matches, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to do a sine from here to here. So that means my amplitude is 2. My period goes from 1 to 5. So my period is 4. So 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2. That's my B. My C is my phase shift, which is right here. This is C. So C, I went over 1. And then D is this lovely brown line that I went up. My D is 1. And since we're doing cosine and you're starting up, down, back up, we don't need a negative on it. My equation is going to be y equals 2 sine pi over 2x minus 1, because we went to the right, plus 1. That's just one option. Depending on where you start, you could have other answers. Next one, if I find the middle of my graph is going to be at -10. Since I have a lot here, this is going to be multiple of them. I'm going to do, let's say, for example, a sine from here to here to here. And if you look up here, these are going by tens. So I'm going from 20 to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So my amplitude goes from goes from -10 to -4. So my amplitude is 6. My period goes from 20 to 60. So that's 40. So 2 pi over 40 gives me pi over 20. I'm starting here, so this is my C, so I'm starting at 20. And my midline, was here. That was down 10. So my equation is going to be y equals 6 sine pi over 20 x minus 20 minus 10. Takes into account all of your stuff. Okay, last one, I'm going from -25 up to +5. So halfway is going to be at -10. And I'm just going to do, I could do a sine. However, I can know that this starts at 0, but I'm not exactly sure where this goes. And since they're telling me this is pi, 5, and they're telling me what it is here, I'm going to do this part of my graph here, since they're telling me what those coordinates are. If they give you coordinates, use them. So I'm going from -pi to 3 pi as my length. So if I'm going from -pi to 3 pi, that means my period is 4 pi. My amplitude, going from -10 to 5, is 15. And for this one, I am upside down because normally it starts high, goes low, goes back high. This is upside down, so I'll make it negative. My period, or my B, sorry, is 2 pi over my period, which is 4 pi. So that's a half. My C, I'm going to start here at -pi. And then my D, I was down 10. So this is an upside down cosine. So this is y equals -15 cosine 1/2 x. Since I went to the left, that's plus pi minus 10. And that's the end of 4.4. Go do your homework. Have fun.